webinar. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. My name is Pablo. I'm the project manager at SEED, and today I'll be moderating this session with you. Happy International Women's Day to everyone. And today's webinar will be celebration for this event. We will focus on the role of women in decision-making in Kurdistan region and Iraq generally. First, I would like to take your consent in recording the session. This session later on will be disseminated with all of you. So I hope no one is have a problem with that. If you do, please let us know. And we will have Kurdish translation at the same time. If you can see below the link, we have interpretation. You can shift to Kurdish language. برازان بەیانیتان باش هیوادارم زۆر باش بن ڕۆژی جانی ژنان لە هەموو لایەکتان پیرۆز بێت وەبنەری ئەمڕۆمان بەو مناسبەیەوەیە بۆ ئەو بەڕێزانی کە تەنها بە زمانی کوردی قساکەن لە خوارەوەی لینکەکەیە ئەگەر ببینن وشەی ئینترپرتیشن هەیە ئەگەر بیکەنەوە ئەتوانن شفت بکەنە سەر زمانی سۆرانی هەتا بتوانن گفتوگۆکانمان بە زمانی کوردی خۆمان گوێ لێ بگرن زۆر سپاس بۆ هەمووتان. By that, we can go deeper into our today's sessions by welcoming our donor, GIZ, that's represented by Susan Leichtweiser. Susan, I hope I'm correcting your name correctly. I'm very sorry, it's a little bit difficult for me, but correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you so much for joining. I will give you the mic to kick off the sessions for your kind speak. The mic is yours.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Bayanitan Bash, Sabah al-Khair. Dear representative of the High Council of Women's Development, distinguished representatives of diplomatic missions and international organizations, dear partners and friends from civil society organizations, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. Allow me to briefly introduce myself. To those of you who do not know me, my name is Susan Leichtweiss, and I am the head of the program SPACE, which stands for Strengthening Participation, Peaceful Coexistence and Equality in Iraq. SPACE is fully funded by the German government and supported by the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, and at SPACE we have for a long time worked in partnership with SEED, but also with the High Council for Women's Development, and indeed with many of you here present today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this online panel discussion on the occasion of the International Women's Day 2025, titled Shaping the Future, the Role of Women in Decision-Making in Kurdistan and Iraq. Today, we gather not only to celebrate the resilience and unwavering spirit of women in our communities, but also to confront the pressing issue that hinder their full participation in shaping a future we all aspire to. Accelerate Action was the motto of this year's International Women's Day, and it's my hope that today's event will provide all of us with food for thought, ideas, and accelerated action to achieve a stronger representation of women in decision-making processes in Iraq, including Kurdistan region. I stand here today as a firm believer in the transformative power of women's leadership. I have witnessed it firsthand during the past 5.5 years that I had the honor to work in Iraq and Kurdistan, and indeed with many of you here present today. Many of you, but also many of the people that we work with, have made extraordinary contributions, not only in their organizations, in their families and communities, but in the economy and governance too. Studies have shown over and over that female voices are essential in any decision-making process to ensure that broader perspectives are considered, the procedures are enhanced, less conflict occurs, and decisions are more inclusive, innovative, and sustainable. When women can lead, communities flourish, families thrive, and entire societies benefit. However, we all know that we still have a long road ahead. Across the world and also in Iraq and Kurdistan, women are held back by systemic barriers that still deny them equal footing in leadership roles, whether in government, the workplace, or at community level. And that's why exchanges like this one today are crucial to learn from best practices, to keep the dialogue ongoing, and to reflect on the roles that we all can play in advocating for women's rights. Our sincere gratitude goes therefore out to our friends from SEED for bringing us virtually together this morning and for continuing the work towards a stronger role for women. Today's exchange comes at a time when globally and locally women's rights are again under threat, when civil society advocates have been severely impacted by shrinking spaces, funding cuts, and an anti-feminist radicalization. Hence, it is ever so crucial that we stand together in support to each other and in support of women's rights. I'm looking forward to today's exchange and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Susan, for this lovely remark and starting today's sessions. Before I forget, I think we have a huge number of audience. Thank you all for joining. We have audience members from GBV Sector Coordination Group members, Online Violence Task Force members, KRG representatives from DCVAO, High Council for Women's Development, MOLSA. We have diplomatic communities and donors, members from university, council's office, UN nations, and some private sectors representative. Thank you so much for attending. Fen Khan, thank you so much also for joining today's call. As Susan mentioned, our main objective for today's session is to explore the critical role of women in both government and communities leadership and demonstrate the importance of their inclusion in decision-making for fostering a future where everyone can thrive. We would love the contribution from everyone. That's why we have the Q&A box below the link. You can, if you have any questions, things that you want to share, you're more than welcome to write down your questions or thoughts. It is okay if you write it down in Kurdish as well, because my dearest panelists are Kurdish speaker, I'm Kurdish speaker as well, so we can facilitate shifting that and translating it to the rest of the team. We try to make it more comprehensive in having one location for questions. That's why if you can keep just the Q&A question instead of chat box, that will be great. However, it is okay if you cannot use that and use the chat box. Now I'm welcoming Sherry Khan, Sherry Kram Talabani, the president of SEED and executive director, for her welcoming and introduction. Sherry, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Tableau. Bayantan Bash, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. And thank you to GIZ for co-hosting this important session with us. GIZ has been a great partner to SEED and to all organizations working in Kurdistan, and your leadership on women's empowerment is especially critical during this moment. This panel is part of SEED's BEHEZ program, supported by SPACE and funded by the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and supported by GIZ. Thanks to our panelists as well, Tro Hassala from the High Council for Women and Development, Bian Ahmed from the Regional Director of Lotus Flower, Irad San, my very old friend from Halabja, who is the head of Mosevern Tree organization, and also the co-chair of the GBV working group there. And our moderator, Tableau, thank you very much, our project manager at SEED. So thanks to all of the attendees for participating in this discussion. And as Susan said, which is taking place at a time where promoting and securing space for women to lead is just so critical, especially here in Iraq and Kurdistan, but globally. So happy International Women's Day, and thank you all for taking this moment to to think about the space that we're operating in. So I want to talk about empowering women and girls. And despite making up over half the world's population, women remain significantly underrepresented in leadership roles, particularly in governance, crisis response, and peace building. Yet their participation is proven to drive more effective, inclusive, and lasting solutions. Women's leadership is not only crucial for emergency preparedness, risk reduction, humanitarian response, but also for shaping policies that address societal needs more holistically. Studies show that when women are involved in decision-making at all levels of governance, policies are more inclusive, economic growth is stronger, and corruption tends to decrease. And there's strong empirical evidence which demonstrates that in peace processes, women's involvement increases the likelihood of violence ending by 24%. And the resulting agreements are more comprehensive, addressing the needs of entire communities rather than just the demands of the warring parties. Yet despite these benefits, women only hold 28% of global management positions. Their perspectives are not just an issue of representation, but of strategic advantage, because diverse leadership improves decision-making, fosters innovation, improves organizational culture. And I can speak from a women-led organization where most of our employees are women. Ensuring women's equal participation in governance, peace building, and crisis response leads to more resilient, equitable, and effective solutions. By elevating women's voices in leadership, we create stronger societies where progress is sustainable and inclusive. So what are the barriers that we face? We continue to face significant barriers, including discrimination, harassment in the workplace, and violence. Iraq ranks 168 out of 177 countries globally for women's representation, participation, justice, and security. So we have one of the most challenging environments here in Iraq for women. Nearly half of Iraqi women experience intimate partner violence alongside widespread online violence, forced marriage, and femicide. Social stigma and weak law enforcement limits women's participation, excluding them from society, education, the economy, and politics. This results in low representation across sectors, including executive roles. Women's labor force participation in Iraq is just 11%, one of the lowest globally. Female literacy is among the lowest in neighboring countries, with only 76% of women and girls age 15 and above able to read and write. And despite quotas, women still hold few government positions outside of parliament. Globally, we see protections for women and girls are regressing. And here in Iraq, we've seen the passing of the personal status law, which, while we were able to get certain improvements incorporated, represents for sure backsliding. So without adequate protection, women cannot reach their full potential or contribute fully to society's progress. We've made some progress here in Iraq and Kurdistan despite these challenges. Quotas for women's political participation have been met in both Iraq and Kurdistan. And frameworks like the National Strategy for Iraqi Women and the Third National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security are advancing, led by dedicated government agencies, including the High Women's Council, who are here with us today. Over the past decades here in Kurdistan, stronger protections for women have been established through the domestic violence law, through the Department of Combating Violence Against Women, through the shelter protection system, through a 24-hour hotline. Awareness campaigns are growing, and government commitments to eliminating violence continue. It's important that we continue to focus, and especially at this stage, as the humanitarian crisis has ended, and we're shifting to a focus on long-term development strategies, that we focus not just on women's protection, but on prevention and on participation and inclusion, so that women are empowered to have a greater role in all levels of society. So let me talk a little bit about SEED's work. As I mentioned, we are a women-led and women-founded organization which employs majority women, and we intentionally create space for women to share their individual to shape their futures, to invest in their capacity, and give them a space to invest in their own communities and to lead in their own communities. We take a whole systems approach to promoting women and girls' leadership across sectors. So, of course, we're widely known for our protection services, working with women and girls in GBV services, case management, legal protections, psychosocial support, shelter, and this transformational services helps protect individual women and girls against violence and to empower them for their safe future. But we also have a whole range of activities focused on systemic change, policy and legislative change, all to improve the systems that we're working within, both for protection of rights as well as protection of safety. And our vision is to create a society where women can participate freely in government, in the private sector, in the NGO sector, safely and effectively, and to ensure that women's voices and their lived experience are at the highest levels to improve our policymaking, our legislation, and the implementation of laws and policies. We also focus on building government capacity and NGO capacity so that services, policies, approaches are all survivor-centered, and they respond to the needs of women and girls. And we try to maximize women's participation in all of our government training for law enforcement, for human rights actors, for shelter staff, and government and ministry staff. In terms of our empowerment, we're embarking on a great new program with GIZ Space to focus on women's empowerment, women's decision-making, building capacity for women to collaborate, to negotiate, to have their voices heard, to inform projects and activities that benefit their society. And our Seed Girls program, which GIZ has supported for many years now, is improving the well-being of adolescent girls, empowering them and their mothers with the knowledge and skills and supportive relationships that they need to thrive. So our vision is to create a society where girls are confident, know their self-worth, and they have the support that they need from their family to achieve their dreams and goals and making a positive contribution to our society. So empowering women and girls is not just a fundamental right, but it's critical for a more prosperous future. And as Susan mentioned, when women and girls thrive, all of society thrives. We're committed to continuing the advancement of women's leadership and ensuring that women's voices are heard across all sectors. So I hope this conversation can be a catalyst for continued action, both in policy and in practice, to ensure women's leadership and participation is not only recognized, but actively supported in government, in the private sector, in communities, and all across society. So all of us here today have the power to carry this forward, the momentum, whether through our work, through advocacy, or our everyday actions to ensure that women's voices are heard and included in leadership every day. Together, we can build a future where women's leadership is the norm and not the exception. So I'm very excited to hear from all of the women leaders that we have here on our panel, and from great questions from the audience, who I'm sure, and just looking at the names, includes mostly women. We also need to be sure to include our male allies in all of our engagements. Tableau told me that there was a huge participation of men in the Women's Day March in Sully, and I was glad to hear that. So back to you, Tableau, and I look forward to hearing
so much. Thank you so much, Sherry, for this lovely introduction. Just like Sherry and Susan mentioned, International Women's Day it's true, it's a time to celebrate women's resilience while addressing the challenges that they still face is very critical. This panel will explore the women's role in decision-making and highlighting the need for inclusive leadership to build a stronger and more equitable future for all of us. But before we go to our panel discussion, I would like to have a poll questions for all of our lovely audience that are with us today. And the question is available in both Kurdish and English. We want to know that what do you think is the biggest challenge for women in leadership? Please feel free to submit your answer, and by the end of the panel discussion, we will come back to your answers and see where we think are the biggest challenges are women facing in our society. Thank you so much for answering the poll question. Now we can dive deeper into our panel discussion with our lovely panelists. Just like Sherry mentioned, Chiro Saleh, she's the head of program from High Council for Women's Development with us. Chiro Khan, thank you so much for dedicating time for this panel. And Vian Ahmed, she's the regional director from Lotus Flower. And Irad San is head of assistance from Rav Century organization. It's worth to mention that not just SEED, but also Lotus Flower and Rav Century is women-led organization as well, that they are with us today. So my first questions for Chiro Khan will be, Chiro Khan, in your capacity as a lead government actor on women's issue in Kurdistan, can you describe to us what is being done at the highest level to encourage and create space for women to hold positions of leadership?
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone, and happy International Women's Day to all of the resilience and amazing ladies and all of us. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be here today to discuss a cause that's not just about the representation, but a real and systemic change in ensuring that women take their rightful place in leadership across the Kurdistan region of Iraq. So as the High Council for Women and Development, we are not just talking about the women's leadership, but we are actively breaking the barriers, reforming policies and securing space for women in governance and security. So recognizing the challenges posed by the systemic gender biases and social norms, the High Council for Women and Development has led policy reforms, institutional strengthening, and capacity building programs to empower women and secure their place in decision-making roles. So through the National Action Plan, aligned with the UN Security Council's Resolution 3025, the High Council for Women and Development has developed a structured framework to enhance women's participation in governance, peace building, and security. So since 2014, the Kurdistan Regional Government, the KRG, they has been pioneer in implementing this initiative, working alongside with the civil society and international organizations, women activists and activists across the KRI to actively promote and sustain women's leadership. So as a High Councils, our efforts are aligned with the national and international framework, particularly the UN resolution, the 3025, which emphasized the women's participations in decision-making, peace building, and governance. If I highlight some of the key initiatives and I must say, the key achievements through the policy and institutional reforms that the implementation of the Kurdistan Regional National Action Plan to systematically increasing the women's representations in leadership roles, and also advocating for and still continuing and the effort for the gender sensitive policies and legal reforms, like including reviewing the labor law, civil and penal codes, and domestic violence legislation to remove the barriers to the women's participations, which is now the reviewing, and this amendment has been done and prepared. Like there's a policy papers regarding the reviewing and the amendment of this law. Once the parliament would be active, it will be one of the main focus with the High Council will take lead on that. And also the appointment of the women to high-ranking government and the security positions, including some of the ministries, for example, Ministry of the Interior, Ministry of the Peshmerga, and Mossad, and so on. So under the leadership, like women's leadership in the security and the governance across the KRI, according to the assessment on the national action plans that the High Council has done for the plan 2021 to 2024, there's a 60% increase in the female recruitment in the security forces through the specialized training program. And also there's a strengthening and inclusions of the women in the security sectors, and over 500 female officers now they are serving under that services. So under the economic and social empowerment development, I must say, like there's a launch of the entrepreneurship program to promote women financial independence and the leadership in the business. And also strengthening one of the key achievement under the National Action Plan is the strengthening the judiciary and legal framework. Like 192 judges, especially, and the judges and the public prosecutors, they have been trained and under this National Action Plan to ensure that there is a gender-sensitive judicial system. But there's a lot of effort that still ongoing and would be done. And also increasing in the female judges to 20% in the judiciary system, with the specialized training in handling the gender-based violence cases. So, and if also regarding the promoting women roles in the peace building and also in the decision-making roles, there have been training for the 410 young women and girls in the leadership and advocacy and also gender equality, and including the human rights. There has been a lot of partnership, especially to strengthening the role of the civil society organizations, and alongside working with the international stakeholders to amplify the women's voices in policy discussions and to be in a more consultative and inclusive approach. And also, as a High Council, we have established a peace mediator network, which consists of the members across the KRI and the women-led organizations, women activists, women advocates. They are members of this peace mediator network. So mainly the main aim of that peace mediation is to bringing more women into the table of the negotiations and conflict resolution. As a High Council for Women and Development, efforts are not just about the increasing numbers, they are more about the creating lasting and systematic change that ensure women continue to rise and lead in governance, security, law, and economic sector as well. So by challenging the traditional gender norms, engaging men as allies, and advocating for legal and institutional reforms, the High Council is working to secure sustainable and equitable future where women in the Kurdistan region of the Iraq hold leadership positions at the highest level. So despite ongoing all of the challenges, a lot of challenges, the High Council remain committed to fostering an inclusive society, ensuring that the women voices are not just heard, but shape the futures of the governance and development in the Kurdistan region. We are also committed to ensuring that the women in KRI don't just participate, but they lead and they shape policies and they define the futures. So the work is continue, and together we can make this vision a reality. And you all know that there is a quota, like the 30% of the quota that the women will participate in the parliament. But at the same time, it's one of the main aim that we are taking under the new national action plans for the following 4 years, is there will be a lot of efforts on increasing like 20% as a whatever we call as a quota, or they will be working on that like 20% of the leadership women, especially in the executive and legislative role, to have more women in the leadership position and decision making. So this is mainly very briefly what we are up to, but
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Thank you, Tirohan. Thank you. These are very interesting and important system and strategies. But also, I wanted to ask you, and as well as Vian Khan and Irad Khan, we've been talking about like solutions and systems in place, procedures to make sure that women's inclusion are more or increased in our system. But also, what do you think can you give me some examples of barriers that you have faced as women in leadership and how you navigated that challenge? You can answer that part and then we can see how Vian Khan and Irad Khan also think about it.
Yeah, of course, like if I go to like the challenges, like all of us as a women, as a female, whether we are in a leadership position or wherever we are in any sectors, there's a lot of challenges as a women that we are facing. But if I, as a woman in leadership, if I highlight my main challenges, I have faced many challenges in the society where the traditional norms usually, often undermine women's role in decision making. So one of the biggest barriers that I have encountered was the bias that pushed me to step back rather than forward. So there have been times when my contribution were overlooked and I was expected to take us on a supportive role rather than a leadership position. So though instead of accepting this limitation, I choose to fight for my space and advocate for my own growth. So if I say how I have navigated these challenges, I always made sure that my voice was heard by confidently sharing my ideas and backing them up with the results. And at the same time, I connected with the mentors and the allies who recognized my potential and helped amplifying my contribution. And also, I refused to be sidelined and took the ownership of the opportunity that contributed to my professional growth. And I also might say that demonstrating that the leadership is about the impact, not just the perceptions. And it was never been easy and never easy, but by standing my ground and continuously proving my worth, and I was able to carve out my own space and advance in my career. So my journey reflects the broader struggles and the achievement of the women in leadership, and I remain committed to breaking the barriers for the future generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tirohan. Vian Khan, do you want to share any barriers that you have faced as women in leadership? And let us know how you navigated that challenge.
Yeah, I think the list is too long for me and for many other women who are in the leadership positions, but maybe I will list down only the top one and to the first and second one. For me, I think one of the main barrier has been the social norms and traditions that usually restricted me and I think many other women here in Kurdistan region, in Iraq and in Duhok, in their leadership journey. This is specifically true when we talk about Duhok city, for example, because here the context of the city is very different, is somehow different. Let me not say very different, but it's somehow different and more bound to certain traditions and norms than other cities of the Kurdistan region. So I have been in many situations when I struggle to receive acceptance from male counterparts who don't believe that women are able to be strong and are able to be successful leaders. So the way I overcome this is actually I did a lot of things, but what I would mainly mention is that I really worked very hard. I did my best in this job that I was doing and tried my best to be a role model for other women in The Hague. And over time, this has changed how people saw me, and this has also changed how they saw other women as well. So not on the personal level, but also on the organizational level, I try to incorporate a lot of those barriers into the work that we do in our organization, because as a woman leader, I do understand clearly what are the challenges and barriers that other women and girls are facing. This is why we implemented several programs that aimed at changing mindsets, for example, and addressing the importance of women, addressing the issues of women from the grassroots level, digging deep into the real causes of these problems and trying to implement effective projects to address these challenges.
Thank you so much, Bian Khan. We will come back for more questions about your work as Lotus Flower, of course. But first, Irad Khan, we want to hear you as well to share any barriers that you have faced as women in leadership, and let us know how you navigated that challenge. Irad Khan, I think you are muted.
I would like to thank managers and the Tableau Khan for bringing us together to discuss this important topic. I think fostering women in position of power is something I care deeply about, as it helps building stronger leadership and communities. When addressing issues related to women, especially for in Iraq or Kurdistan region, it is essential to investigate the root causes, particularly the region we now has history as a conflict zone. To support the women in leadership and inclusive leadership for all classes. We must also talking about we have a marginalization classes of women that faces many barriers. For us, I think as a women leadership, we need to how to provide a safe and supportive spaces for us, maybe by psychological support for women. Especially, we need focus on the rural and conflicted area, on also minority backgrounds. Many of women we now endure violence or displacement that creating space where they feel they need to space to feel safe to express themselves and heal is critical. These safe spaces, the opportunity to heal emotional and psychology before they can even think about taking leadership roles. So I think we are as a woman, this is all barriers for us, especially we need, we have, I think also the main obstacles for women and younger girls is access to education and skill development, formal and informal education. Women, we now in this area, especially we now in the conflicted zone, suffered from barriers. For example, in my area, for example, we now in Kurdistan region, or also in my area, the younger girls, especially in rural area and remote area, the higher risk of dropping out of schools and child marriage due to several factors. I think the main factor, in my opinion, is the lack of transportation. Most villages, they have limited access to and higher schools for that forcing girls to travel to another town or another cities. So in some cases, the families hesitate to send their daughters due to concern about harassment. We know there have been other reports about harassment on schools buses involving younger girls, along with the higher costs, also cultural norms. So we need to the key approach to solve these barriers. I think we need for doing for younger girls is to improve transportation services, providing financial support, also raise awareness through advocacy in these communities. So leadership of women should include formal education pathways, especially literacy and digital literacy, because digital literacy is the main, I think, obstacles against women. We now in Iraq is the higher harassment, electronic barriers for women. Also, we need to development leadership. As we are as a woman, we need to informal education like life skills, communication, leadership training. This is providing as a woman a strong education foundation help us to build their confidence and empower them to step into the leadership role. Also, we need vocational training and skill building. All these is the key areas or key approaches to help women to achieve especially financial independence, because we know it is a link to the leadership roles as I think it is, which is as a vital step towards taking on leadership roles in their communities. Also,
we will come back into the details of what needs to be done, especially in your location and in underserved areas like Halabja. So we will, of course, ask more questions about what needs to be done. Thank you so much for sharing this incredible input with us. I will come back to you for another questions. Vian Khan, we know that Lotus Flower was established with a vision to provide women and girls affected by conflict with the strength and the support they need to rise out of darkness. Can you talk us through what you believe are the essential support women need to move beyond trauma to recovery onto leadership? And as Lotus Flower, what are you currently doing to address that?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Tablo Khan. So Lotus Flower, as mentioned earlier in the beginning of this webinar, we are a women's-led women's empowerment organization established in 2016 as a response to the ISIS attack on Iraqi territories and the displacement of thousands of people. We mainly operate in the Hook City, but we also have programs in Ninawa Governorate. So as an organization, I think despite many challenges that Sherry Khan also outlined some of them, and as a women's-led organization, we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of barriers in our way to implement several programming for other women and girls and promote women's leadership. Despite all of that, we have been successful to implement programs successfully and positively impacted over 80,000 individuals, mainly women and girls. Lotus Flower programs are aligned with 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, including education, livelihood, health and safety, peace building, human rights, and climate change. So these are the SGD pillars that we align our programs under which, and these are the pillars that we think are necessary for us to align our programs and to work under them, because that is how the need is it. So under each of these, we have implemented several interventions since the foundation. Through these pillars, as I mentioned, we mainly targeted women and girls, and the programs were mainly for to protect, to support women and girls in the communities we work, which were mainly IDPs, refugees, and host communities in the Hague. And I mentioned earlier that we try our best as an organization to look into the different needs of women and also look into the root causes of the issues that they are facing, and use a very holistic approach, acknowledging different needs of these women and recognizing the importance of filling most of the gaps that they have in their leadership journey and also in the journey of healing and empowerment. So we strongly believe that for women to advance in their leadership journey, there are a lot of things that need to be addressed. There are a lot of factors that we need to address them. The first one is education. I do agree with Irad Khan that education is crucial. It provides women and girls with the knowledge, with training, with capacity development needed to build strong skills and also overcome challenges, which is one area that Lotus Flower strongly advocate for and strongly works on it. The second area for us is the economic independence is another crucial area. The Lotus Flower is implementing projects to support women's entrepreneurship. We believe that economic empowerment is giving women a stronger voice within their family and community context, allowing them to be self-sufficient and also a source of support for themselves and their families. Another key area of Lotus Flower work is health and safety, where we have designed and implemented unique programs to support women, girls, and children. These programs provide mental health support, psychosocial support, MHPSS, gender-based violence prevention, and also access to essential health services to ensure their well-being and protection. The other pillar that we prioritize is the peace building pillar. And under this specific pillar, we prioritize the agenda of women, peace, security, under UN's Resolution 1325 agenda. So these initiatives, through these peace building initiatives, we empower young women and girls to become mediators and leaders in peace building efforts, leading interventions that promote peace and social cohesion with a particular focus on their role in conflict resolution and peacemaking. Additionally, we address climate change and specifically the impact of climate change on the women and girls, recognizing how environmental crisis could increase gender-based violence, could increase discrimination, or any other forms of violence against women and girls in Iraq. Our programs also highlight the role that women and girls could play in the climate action and leadership, ensuring they are part of the decision-making process in environmental sustainability and disaster response. So our primary focus, as I mentioned earlier, are women and girls, but we also design projects for men and boys to engage them as alliance in promoting women's rights and protection. We believe that gender equality requires the involvement of every community member. What we currently have at Lotus Flower, we have a number of exciting projects that align with the pillars or with what I just mentioned, the areas of focus for Lotus Flower. We implement these programs through eight women, girls, children protection centers in the Hook Governorate. And we also have mobile teams in areas where we don't have static centers in the Hook and Ninawa. For example, we have Women's Business Incubation Project and mental health support. We have the Child Protection Program. We have our recently started 1325 Women Peace Security Center. We have the General Protection Program for the IDP and host communities in non-camp locations in the Hook Governorate. We have the Boxing Sisters, Air Sisters, Skating Sisters project. So these are the current running programs of Lotus Flower, and we implement these programs with the generous support of different international and UN agencies, including GIZ, CARE, ECO, UNHCR Iraq, German Federal Foreign Office through the German Consulate General in Erbil, and many other donors.
Thank you so much, Vian Khan. You brought a very interesting topic about engaging men in your intervention as well. And I believe we have questions in a Q&A about engaging men in this topic. So we will revisit that, and we're hoping that we can address some of those questions through your intervention that you did. Thank you so much for this incredible input and activities that you are doing as a Lotus Flower. Irad Khan, I'm coming back to you. You mentioned some of the methods of interventions for violence and also preventions for violence as well. But I want to know, as you as a woman-led human rights organization in the most underserved areas and governorate like Halabja, what do you think needs to be done to ensure that leadership opportunities are more inclusive for women, particularly in rural, conflict-affected, minority and displaced women? And in your organization, what are you currently doing to address those challenges?
I think we need to build a community that is zero gender-based violence. I think the main causes for or barrier or obstacles against women is the gender-based violence. We need to prevention or stopping GBV before it happens. So we need to. When I mentioned before, I think education and awareness it is the key approaches for these issues, like conduct workshop or school programs that develop to identify the challenges like gender stereotype and the promote respect. Also, we need community engagement. We need in these cases involve religious leaders, community elders, and the local influencer, and advocated for the gender equality. Also, economic empowerment, especially support women access to job and financial independence, and to reduce economic barriers. Also, we need to change the challenges, harmful norms that justified violence against women. So we need also when I mentioned, we need a safe space for women. It may be by the stronger legal framework, advocated better laws to enforcement and judicial action against perpetrators, also shelter shelters and the safe house or supportive services. All this, I think it is need to develop the leadership and management also in this, especially for marginalization women. So we need also social cohesion and community building. We must also focus on rebuilding social cohesion in communities through strengthening community relationships that have been affected by conflict or displacement. This involves promoting solidarity among women of different backgrounds, also as well as between, when you mentioned, between men and women. Also programs that foster positive interaction and mutual support among these groups can help women gain the trust and the respect of their communities. So social cohesion is not just about rebuilding infrastructure, but also about building relationships that promote peaceful collaboration and equal opportunity. Fortunately, that we know the Kurdistan Regional Government and Women Affairs High Council launches the third action plan. It is a good opportunity for implementing the UNSCR 1325. So we need support. It is this is for government support. It is commitment to women's empowerment, legal protection, and economic stability. So we need also organized community dialogue, workshop, and awareness campaigns that emphasize or focus the importance of women leadership in rebuilding peaceful community. Also engaging men and boys is the discussion around the gender equality and the role of women in peace building, aiming to build strong and supportive communities where women are valued as leaders. So I think we need more approaches, especially ensuring representation in decision making. Women, especially from marginalized background or in general, must have a seat at the table in decision making process at the local or regional, or also in the national levels. This including ensuring that women from, for example, in rural or conflicted, affected, and minority communities are actively involved in community leadership, government, and NGO boards. Advocacy and the stronger legal framework are essential in promoting policies that support women leadership and participation. So we need a legal reform should focus on increasing women's representation and especially in political parties. Unfortunately, we have the many barriers for participation of women in political parties. For example, we have no any rules or laws to monitoring the participation of women in the political parties. Also, we know especially younger women are afraid to join political parties because they are afraid from harassment or another maybe traditional norms are the barriers for them. So we need legal reform should focus on increasing women's representation in the political parties. Also, we need formal institutions, government institutions, also local councils, especially we know that in the rural area, women more marginalization compared to the another areas. So we need representation women in the local councils, also on the advisory bodies. In my area, this representation unfortunately limited due to insufficient support for women, highlighting the urgent needs for advocacy, policy changes, and the structural support to empower women in the leadership roles. I think this is all approaches that we need to work in the future and in the future plan of the NGOs and the government to be reviewed these barriers.
Irad Khan, these are really incredible approaches and methodologies And I'm sure that rural areas like Halabja needs even further support than other cities. But worth to mention that NGOs such as you and other NGOs are doing by far great jobs so far. Thank you so much for sharing this incredible input. Now I want to go back to our audience. If you remember, we asked the general questions in the beginning. It was a poll question by saying that what do you think is the biggest challenge for women in leadership? And by far, majority of the answers, Marley, can you help us see the results? Thank you so much. Majority of the answers are culture and social expectations. And finding the right support and mentorship comes by in the second level, and then balancing work and personal life by 10%. Worth to mention, a good amount of people are thinking that lack of career and development opportunities are also a big challenge. Thank you so much for responding to those questions. I think one of the questions in the chat box, in the Q&A questions, will take us to another questions for all the panelists, which is, what advice would you give to girls and women and young women who aspire to be leaders and change makers? And this is an open questions for all three of you. Please feel free to unmute and share your inputs on that.
Thank you, Tablo Khan. And so, like, what advice that we give to the girls and to the women? And I must say, like, never doubt your ability to lead or make a change or a differences. Like, confidence is the key, and always speak up and don't be afraid to take space. And like we all know as a woman, like even it has been mentioned, like through my colleagues, the panelists, is knowledge is the power, and seeking out the mentors who can guide you and surround yourself with the people who can lift you up, find the mentors, role models, allies who can inspire and push you to growth. Don't be afraid to ask for help and advice. And also like continuing challenging the barriers, the stereotypes. And we may face like resistance, but push through, speak up, and show that the women's voice are really essential in every space. And learn from the failure, adapt, and keep going. Resilience is what I also think like resilience is what makes great leaders stand out. So my final thought would be keep breaking the barriers and making history. Thank you.
Thank you, Trohan. Vian Khan.
Yeah, I think I would really encourage them to work very hard and do their best in whatever they want to be succeeding. They need to realize at the very beginning that the journey won't be easy, but it will be worth it when they see the result. They need to know that there will be a lot of challenges, a lot of barriers that they will face, but they need to face these challenges and barriers with wisdom, and determination.
Very good one. Thank you, Vian Khan. Irad Khan, what advice would you give to girls and young women who aspire to be leaders and change makers?
I advise them to believe in your voice. Confidence is the key. Believe that your ideas and experiences matter. Speak up in meeting, community gathering, and decision-making space, and stay informed about leadership, advocacy, and policy making. I think take leadership courses or join mentorship program, learn public speaking, negotiation, strategy plan skills. I think it is a main strategy or approaches. Also building relationship with other leaders, activities, and the professionals. Engage with women, organization, NGOs, and the leadership groups. Form alliances with also we need with the men who supported gender equality or women rights. Also push against culture norms that limited women limitation to leadership. Also also educated others on the benefit women in leadership roles and the decision making. So I advise, don't wait for permission. We need to step forward when opportunities arise. We all at the past, we are in the same situation, but we step the barriers and try. So we need start project. They need start projects that lead community effort, taking responsibility. Also, it's not afraid from mistake, learn from mistakes and keep improvement. I think it is good. Also, we need to be a great leader, listeners, and understand other challenges. Also, it is a key approaches. So we need leadership often come with criticisms. Stay focused on your mission and developing resilience and seek support from mentors or allies. And I also remember them that leadership is about impact, not just position.
It's true.
Can I add my thoughts, Tableau?
Yeah, of course, Sherry. Please
First
go
of
ahead.
all, Irad is very inspiring, and we know that she faces many challenges in her work in Halabja, and she just keeps on going and using all these great strategies. And I just think these Tro and Bian are very impressive. I want to build on something that Bian said, and people may think that things are easier in the US or in the West, and there's more acceptance, and maybe Susan wants to share her experience, but when I worked in the work world in the United States for 15 years, I faced the same barriers. Now, they might not be conservative social norms, but barriers in the workplace exist. Skepticism about what women could do, especially I was a young woman. And I want to build on what Bian said about hard work. I think that being competent at what you do, being prepared, delivering results and representing those results, as others have said, confidently, expressing opinions, but based on facts, based on analysis, based on evidence, and really being prepared and working hard. It really shows in the end that women can deliver. Women can deliver impact. Women can deliver results. Women bring good ideas, big strategies, good perspectives to the table. So I really believe in hard work and competence and results. I think are the way to go. I think all what everybody else said about networking and building strategies and alliances are very important. But at the core of us, what we bring to the table is our ideas and our perspectives, but they always have to be based on evidence, facts, reason, analysis. What has worked before? It doesn't have to be a report that you bring to the table, but what has worked before and how you bring that forward. So it's not just the how, but it's the what you bring forward. So that's my recommendation. And maybe Susan has a point of view as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Sherry.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you and all these advices and ideas. I really don't know what to add to that. It's all have been said. Sherry, you mentioned the barriers. This is something I'm struggling a bit with. Sometimes it is more difficult for women to get on the same level like men, right? We all know that. And sometimes it's not only hard work what they need. We need to really look into these barriers and all these hindering factors, and we are trying to look into the root causes and trying to solve them. What I really liked is trying to find allies, trying to find networks and mentors. I would like to say to all these women and girls, do not let people stop you from believing in yourself and from putting you into a role you don't want to do or you don't want to be in. Yeah, maybe that is what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Susan. I'm not sure if Tanya Jamal is still with us. She wanted to share her input as well, and we would love to hear her. But I think we have an internet issue. She has the internet issue, so when she's back, I will give her some space to share her input as well. But until my colleagues support me in adding her back to the webinar, we have the second poll questions for the audience that we would like to share with you. So the second poll question is, we want to know what do you think are the most effective ways to ensure more women have opportunities to take on leadership role. And I noticed that we have similar questions within the pool questions, so maybe it will be a good opportunity for us to later on review these answers, and hopefully we can give the answer of that questions to our audience as well. Okay, so while you are answering the questions, we can go to the Q&A questions. And please feel free, not necessarily all of us answer the same questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and answer the questions if you would like to share your input. The first question is by Tanya Qadir. She's asking, how can we ensure that young girls are encouraged and prepared to take on leadership? So I think we answered that questions in the pool questions. The second and the last question that I asked all three of you. So I think we have some insights about the methodologies, how we encourage young girls to participate in leadership and have an active role. However, if you have any additional input that you missed to add, please feel free to add it. If not, we will go to the second question.
Tableau, can I just add one more? I think it answers your question, but going back to what we talked about
Yes,
before,
sure.
we talked about overcoming barriers, and several people mentioned building alliances. I think it's really important that women build up other women and not look at the competition, or not look to undermine others. And I think that's a really a big challenge, that we need to boost other women and bring along young women and partner with other women. So it's not just we're seeking relationships, but we're also supporting others, mentoring others, especially these women here who have already accomplished so much. I think it's just really important when you get to a certain point to do that mentoring. And I think when we think about young girls, adolescence is so difficult. And that's an age where the girls are just starting to build alliances, and they know that they can use powerful words to hurt each other. So I think one of the things that we're doing in our Seed Girls program is to help them build better friendships, and to know that to be trustworthy and to trust others, but to be trustworthy and to be a good friend and not bring others down. So I think that's having a good social network as a young woman, and having a good relationship with your mother is very important to being confident, and with your father too, but to being confident in the world, right?
That's true. Thank you so much for sharing and answering that question, Sherry. Tanya Khan, I think you're back. Can you hear us? Tanya Khan? Maybe you are muted. Can you unmute yourself, Tanya?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Tanya Khan, gyan فرمو.
بەیانیتان باش؟
بەیانی باش، Tanya Khan.
خۆشحاڵم لەگەڵ ئێوەم ئەمڕۆ بۆ ئەو بابەتە گرنگ.
We need this topic. We need to cover this topic. It has been a long time that I raised my hand, but I think it was the internet. I want to talk in general about the issue. What we are covering here is how can women reach participation in decision making. We have this opportunity. We have within the political parties, within the ministries, but when it comes to women participation in decision making, we cannot marginalize the political parties. So we have a lot of barriers, a lot of cultural barriers. But what is need to be done, in my opinion, is number one, open the mind of the political parties, especially in the leadership of these parties, who are elected, who is in charge. They must, in general, I'm not just meaning women in general, but our topic is on women today. There are opportunities, but many times we see that it's not as expected. That doesn't mean we don't have women that are trying, but no, women should prove themselves. They should take steps forward. Not just observe how can I do that, but I should work on developing myself. How can I perform this work? Unfortunately, we have a lot of women in work, but in the simplest negotiations, you don't see women in the decision making to leave their thumbprint. When it comes to serious work, you see women, even in this leadership, are not visible. Who are the women in the leadership? I stand with young women, education and family should work each other, should help each other. But in general, or eventually the political party decides. I don't believe the Kurdish society doesn't have strong women or equipped women and girls that cannot come forward in this and work in the political front. But unfortunately, they have withdrawn and withdrawn back, and for reasons we cannot mention here. I think every woman, every family should try to educate their children, their girls, to have good education so that they are able to reach decision-making positions. And if I candidate myself tomorrow, who is going to support me politically? I should join a political party which is directed by men. They should also, the most simplest thing, look at driving within the family with your sister, with your nephews and niece. When it comes to some certain levels, they don't trust women drivers. What are the root causes of this? We should always, at every level, even if head of parliament, when it comes to serious work, when it comes to serious role, they take it away from women. So in my opinion, our main problem is the political parties and all the NGOs on a lower level, from media, from educational institutions, from civil society organizations. We should all work how to strengthen women's role. But eventually, we should go back to the political parties, should accept that women can do these roles and accept these roles. Not just to mention this political party managed to hire this number of MPs.
زۆر بەسوودن و ئەوانی جناب ئێڵەی هەمووی
I agree. If participants in political parties and decision making, if we manage to advance it in this way you mentioned, I am sure that the actual roles will be very different than just taking the position. The civil society organizations and other entities, government institutions and UN agencies should support this process. Thank you very much. I believe Fenik Khan is with us as well. You also wanted to say something? Good morning. Morning, Tablo Khan. Good morning, Susan and Cherry. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you, participants. What we are covering here is a very strong issue. How can we bring women to leadership? I want to add something from my own experience. I would start with when I was elected for the position of general manager of DC Val. They told me that they said that Fenik is a soft woman. How could she work with all these officers and male staff inside a community that is have an eye on or observing the police? What I mean here is a community observe women and girls as you should, in this role, you should be a tough woman and conquer these obstacles that men created. What I want to mention is that we all try to change our perspective and think about decisions that benefit women and girls, and also support men to make men are just fathers and husbands. And I am in support of what Cherry and the other panelists mentioned. And I support what you said, Tabla Khan. And believe in women will is very important also. We should all have a strong will. When we talk about family, we should encourage families to have a equal vision between boys and girls within the family. For example, have similar awareness or equal awareness in social issues, how they can respect each other and raise boys to understand girls' issues or women issues, and vice versa. This will make sure eventually we have a community without violence. And also men's support is not just about to say your support in support, but they have to respect the opinions and ideas of women. And another issue that is mentioned is the political parties. Yes, I agree. Political parties should give authority or power to women also to make decisions. If we are, as NGOs and other activists or any government entities, feel that these women and girls, even men, there is, for example, a knowledge material or any issue that they are in need of, they should be delivered and covered for them. And how can they work in a good system? We could work, for example, if women, when they go to parliament, even men, when they go to the parliament, they should be they should learn how to analyze legal and other issues. And because of their background, they join the parliament, and we should work on how can they empower them? How can we raise their potentials? Within the government, the difference is you are obliged to laws and constitution. You have regulations. Maybe this person is strong in one area but not in the other. So it is important to have a strategic plan, maybe have semi-annual meetings or workshops or strengthening their the areas that they work on to empower them in their position, so that they are doing their task. Thank you, and I hope you continue this work and having a network for strengthening the relationship between the government and NGOs and others outside of the government, so that together raise women's voice and conquer these crises together and create or build younger generation younger women to work on these issues. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, Fana Khan. We are very happy for your participation. And we agree on what you mentioned. One thing that caught my attention is not just mention have women in only women in leadership position without preparing them. Thank you so much. I am going back to
إنجليزية كاك مظفر
زمان إنجليزي.
زور سباس. Thank you so much, everyone. So I think today was incredible. I think there were so many great ideas, initiatives was discussed and shared with us. Let's go back to the poll question result for the second question that we had. Marley, if you can help me show the result. Oh, okay. So in this question, we are saying, what do you think are the most effective way to ensure more women have the opportunity to take on leadership role? Majority of the answers comes from improved legislation of government support. And what else after that? It's mentorship and role model, I suppose. Access to training and development. And I think this will answer a few questions that we have in the Q&A box. These are really interesting answers. Thank you so much for submitting that. Now we can go, we're very sorry, I think we have only 3 minutes left. But for those who are willing to listen to the answers of the question, we will not leave them like that. So you're more than welcome to stay so we can go through the questions. And this question is also, as I said, is for everyone. And please feel free for the panelists, Sherry, Susan, feel free to jump in and answer the questions as needed. The second questions of Tanya Qadir, she's saying, what role can men play in supporting and advocating for women's inclusion in leadership and decision-making? Vian Khan, I think you had a program of man engagement. Do you want to share some inputs on that?
Are specifically designed to engage young men and boys, but also parents and fathers specifically, and religious leaders. I mean, we decided to go for these programs because we strongly believe, and as everybody mentioned as well, that men and boys has to be alliance with women. Women cannot do everything alone in this journey. And I think I always say this, one of the, not mistake, but maybe it could have been done better by us as NGO, women's NGOs, or even feminists and other women's supporters in Kurdistan region in Iraq, is that in the past, many years ago, there was always, you felt like there is a clash between men and women over women's rights. And I don't think that has been positive. We really need to look into the issues realistically. We need to acknowledge that we are in a patriarchal community. Men are taking most of the leadership position. This is not only true for Iraq, this is true for the majority of the Middle Eastern countries. So women need to be even more genius about how to engage men, involve them as alliance, and this is a necessity. It's not a plus. If we don't do it, I don't think the results will be very positive at the end, because this process cannot be done by women alone. So yes, I do believe that women need to work hard to ensure that men are also involved in this process. How we can do this is that we really need to try to stick into the context, try to see what we can do that does not hurt some of the community members. Let's say we really need to address women's issues realistically and with genuine, not hurting male, telling them that this is only us, we can only do that, we don't need you. This doesn't work at all. I don't think it will work in any part of the world. We really need to make them understand and believe that we complete each other in this journey. And if they are alliance, that means they are protecting their future daughters, they are protecting the future generation from any forms of violence, or helping their daughters in the future to take in leadership positions. So women's rights and women's protection field is for the benefit of every community, not only for women and girls.
Thank you so much, Vian Khan. Thank you so much for sharing that. Chiro Khan, I see a question that you could have some input for that. It says, what are the key indicators that show progress in women's participation in decision making?
Thank you so much. And before going to these questions, I also would like to add some input regarding the men's engagement and men's allies. I think what we have seen, what we have observed and experienced, like we need a real men allies. Like it's not like, as we all say, like it's not about okay, that man, he has the knowledge, and like saying that gender equality, women needs to be empowered, women needs to take space and take the leadership roles, but at the same time through the attitude. I must say, like having the real men allies, like, and through their actions, their attitudes, that it shows that demonstrating that the women should be empowered and should be equal as men and giving the same opportunity. And I will just give one examples, like how we can have the men allies, and what would be the role of the men when it comes to the empowering women, or in this, not only in the leadership position, but overall. Like before the launching the election campaigns, we have established a high committee, which was consist of many, like 8 ministries, including the CSO and others, women activists. So through this high committee, we have learned that how it's important working with the men in different levels when it comes to, let's say, especially women political participations. We have established that committee. It was called the Protecting the Female Candidate through the elections campaigns, so that we can make sure that the women, that they have a safe space and far from the defamation from the social media, from the community, especially with the Ministry of the Religious and Endowment Affairs, that we have we have said with a lot of religious leaders that we have done the awareness raising during the Friday calls. So I like what I'm saying, that engaging real men allies in different levels, it really have very effective and efficient ways of like creating the space for the women, especially the safe space for the women when they get access to any kind of the sectors of the through the leadership or any work. Regarding the indicators, your questions on the decision making, I should not be saying this here for now because we have to wait until we will launch that. We have developed a gender desegregated data. It will show that to tell us like the percentage of the women and they're in the leadership positions, like where we are, and in the attending in the diplomatic commissions, all these areas that women can contribute to the decision-making roles. But throughout all of the efforts that the initiatives that as a High Council for Women and Development have been taking forward, still there are a lot of gaps and the challenges that we are facing. We need to, now we are working on these barriers. But when it comes to like when we are saying protecting and strengthening the women's participations, and making sure they're not only in the leadership position, but they're contributing to the decision-making process, we need to have a strengthening the legal framework. And this is one of the areas that we've been experiencing, and we've been focusing on that. But like I will not be go into all of the details indicators, but there are, as I said, there are achievements, like the women, they have been taken into the leadership and decision-making process, but still we are not there. I must say there is more efforts, there is a lot of gaps and the challenges that we are focusing and we are working on it. There will be a lot of different initiative way forward to break that barriers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chiro Khan, for sharing that. My last question is for Irad Khan. Irad Khan, unfortunately, I think we have 2 minutes left, but it is very important for me to hear from you. One of the questions, which we see it in the Q&A question also, is can you tell us your ideas about having any specific approach, idea, or project with government or private sector to support women's to have jobs, especially nowadays when most of the NGOs, private sectors are going through some crisis in and letting go of their staff. Females are one of the most vulnerable population within that group. And then if you have any specific approaches or ideas how government or private sector can support that in securing jobs.
Thank you. Yes, of course, we need, especially we know the freezing funds by the NGOs. It is impacted the NGOs workers. So we need the new strategy or new approach by government as an initiative is to present for NGOs. Like we need to support by private sectors. Also, we need we know the reduce women in Iraq in general, also in Kurdistan, that is the rate of jobless is the higher rate among women, especially younger women. So we need new approaches like opportunity of a job according to the women opportunities or women specialized. So we need government wide advocacy on the campaigns to how to raise the rate of job for women. This need collaboration between government and NGOs to solve this problem, because we know the independence economic is directly linked to the leadership for women. So we need a wide approach for this reason, and we need more dialogue and workshop about these issues.
Thank you so much, Irad Khan. This is very important. And I will close this panel discussion by saying that empowering women in leadership isn't just about equality, it's about driving process and creating a stronger and more inclusive future. I hope that today's discussion will turn out into action and break down those barriers that we discussed and ensure that women's voice not just contribute, but lead the way forward. Thank you so much, everyone, for your contribution. Now I will go back to Susan from GIZ for closing down this incredible webinar. I learned so much from you, and I really admired by what you're doing in government and also in your organization. Thank you very much. Susan Khan?
Thank you, Tabu Khan. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to give the closing remarks after so many valuable inputs. There is really not much I can add other than saying thank you. It makes me really, really happy and proud and hopeful to see so many strong women in different positions and with all these different approaches fighting for more participation and rights for women. Thank you to our wonderful panelists for sharing their insightful ideas and approaches. It was really inspiring to hear from you today, like Ms. Tablo already said. And thanks also to the audience for enhancing our discussion with your questions and comments. And thanks to our friends from SEED for bringing us together here today. As we have heard today, the road ahead is not easy. The current situation in Iraq is alarming. And we continue to see developments that restrict the freedom of women, girls, minorities, and undermine women's participation in decision-making and leadership. But we do have hope. Standing together, cooperation, working hand in hand, will grow our resilience and courage. Our work is not done, it's more urgent than ever. And let us carry the spirit of this webinar into the days, weeks, months to come. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thanks to GIZ for your continuous support. Any final word from our panelists? Sherry, anyone that wants to say a final word? If not, I will close today's webinar. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, Ramadan Kareem, and I hope you enjoy the weekend that's in front of us. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Shukran.